What's up, Unleashing Your Life Purpose? My name is Gabriel, and I am with a very special guest today. We have Joel. Joel, thank you so much for coming on to the interview today and speaking about purpose with everyone in this group, talking about your story and what you learned along your journey and how you contribute to this whole collective system we call life. So, Joel, thank you so much
Yeah,
for being on, and I appreciate that.
you're welcome.
So Joel, just so everyone kind of like knows you, you've been in this Facebook group, I think since we almost basically started it, man, and you've been
Yeah,
pretty involved in it, which is really, really awesome. I appreciate that.
yeah,
And I just want people to know who you are. So if you could just tell us your story.
yeah. Well, my name's Joel Mahony. I bit of the backstory is I was born with spina bifida. I am 36 years old, so there's been a lot of ups and downs to do with my disability. I guess so. Along the journey of that part of the self-discovery of who I am. Um, I have learnt a lot about myself. I have become very self-aware when it comes to myself, my emotions, and everything else. Um, so, with the whole disability thing, I have spent a lot of time in hospitals, and most of that was when I was a kid. Not so much anymore. Most of the time when I'm in the hospital now, I just are in there for an appointment or whatever. But in those times of when I was alone by myself, left to my own devices, basically, it had it gave me a lot of time to discover myself from a very early age. So with that, um, the whole, I mean, self self discovery thing, I have discovered that in this life we just have to do what we do, because there are going to be others' opinions on how things are done, and as a kid especially, you are, with the consent forms and all that they have in hospitals, you're not going to get a lot of choice in those times. So
Yeah.
as an adult, I think we should carry those things in that situation, and in many should, to our adulthood, and be spiteful, basically. Um, so, we make our own decisions as adults. We basically are the masters of our own destiny. Um, we get to decide. So, yeah, basically that is a little summary of my journey of self-discovery so far. And yeah.
Joel, you were mentioning because we were supposed to do this maybe like at least twice before, but the timing was now we're here on this one, so I really appreciate that. But you were mentioning something about independence, and
Yeah,
I know that you have that disability and you're in a wheelchair. Can you
yeah,
can you explain to people what that was like to gain a sense of independence at an early age? Because you said that you were basically it was you, your sister, I believe, and it was
yeah, yeah,
your mom. So she made a lot of those decisions for you, and she said, "This is what you
yeah,
can do. This is what you can't do." So, what
yeah.
was it like to be in a stage where you had to learn how to become thinking independent for yourself and thinking for yourself?
Well, I mean, basically, and I haven't released it yet, but I've actually been writing a little bit of an autobiography for a couple of years now. I haven't finished it, but it's sort of one of those things that I can only write bits and pieces of it at a time, because I get kind of emotional. Um, so, but basically, going right back to the start, and I mentioned this in my book, and I will probably release it as a PDF when it's finished, for anyone that would be interested in reading it. The first decision I had to make was probably the toughest decision that anyone could make. I had, because of my disability, the first 2 operations that I had were at 2 days old, which is I had to have a shunt put in my head because of the hydrocephalus, brain fluid, extra brain fluid. They had to drain it out. So I had to have a shunt put in my head. That was 2 days old. On top of that, I had, from the spina bifida, I was born with a hole in my back, and they had to sew that up. So, and I think there was one other one, but basically, on day 2 of my life, I had 3 operations, and that was about maybe 80 stitches later. And as they do with any small baby, they had to basically, to cover themselves, they had to say, look, he might not make it. But therein lies my first decision that I ever had to make in my life. And it does still make me emotional thinking about it. Basically, my first decision in my life was at that moment where I had to choose whether I wanted to live or whether I wanted to pack it in. Now, 36 years later, I obviously chose life, and I'm loving it. I've honestly, in this last few years, never been so clear-headed of what my life purpose is. Obviously, going back to the hospital thing, that was a big part of how I came to the discovery of my purpose, because I had a lot of lovely people that took care of me in those moments, and I feel almost a responsibility to give back to those people that took care of me, to help me be who I am today. So, you know, the beginning, not so much now, but the beginning was an uphill battle.
So that just made me want to ask a couple more questions, Joe. So you had mentioned that at this stage of your life, you had to make these decisions earlier on, whether you were aware of them or not. At 2 days old, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Aware of them or not, you had to make this choice for yourself. Do I want to do this? Do I want to
yeah,
keep living this life, or do I want to go back to wherever we come from? I don't know, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, when it came to your life purpose, you said, I know my life purpose. I know what that is. I'm very clear on
yeah,
that. Can you
yeah.
explain how you got that clarity? First, explain what your life purpose is, and then also explain, too, how you got that clarity for us.
Well, just probably in the last 6 months or so, I've actually got my business up and running, got my website up, things like that. I finished my certificate in life coaching. So I have in those, and I said this when we were talking before, I also have struggled with depression and anxiety problems, things like that. So I know that side of things can be a roadblock of sorts, for a lot of people that just, I wouldn't say get over their anxiety or depression, but don't know how to manage it, because some people can't get over it. And I do understand that, but I believe there is a way to make it manageable. I've got a YouTube channel as well, where I have explained most of the videos are just my way of how I've come to be where I am, basically what we're talking about today. And certain tips I can give people that I myself have used as well. So basically, my life purpose is, like I say, going back to nurses and that they took care of me. They made sure I was as comfortable as I could be. And I feel that, I just feel a sense of I needed to be able to give something back. And I know as, because of where I've been in my life before I actually discovered my life purpose when I was still doing naughty stuff, drinking and whatnot. I I didn't have that clarity, and I was, to be honest, still in a mind space where I was like, you know what, fuck the world. Um, so it took me actually getting sober to actually realize that my life as it is, because a lot of the reason I know now was for the reason that I was drinking is because I was masking um, my own insecurities in a way, because I didn't have self-confidence. I just, I would wheel my wheelchair up the street and just, soon as I'd go out the front door, I'd get a sense that people were staring at me, and I'd get anxious. I'd be depressed. I'd even get angry because I'd be like, "What the fuck are they looking at?" Um, so when I got sober, I realised that, and also when I started, because I did research as well. It's important when we discover our life purpose. It's important to research it, live it, breathe it, dream it, all that good stuff. Um, so what I did when I actually got a bit of clarity after a few months of detoxing, when I was well enough to get my thoughts together, basically, I did a bit of research, and I think I Googled something like, how can I find someone to help me get my life together, basically. It was something like that. I wasn't aware at that time of the term life coach. I didn't know were actual people that would help you, motivate, be accountable for your actions, things like that. And as I started watching YouTube videos of life coaches and different pieces of information, it's something in my brain just sort of clicked, where I went, because with my friends, for example, I've always been the person that they can come to for advice, things like that, when they're down, when they're out. And I've always been good with providing an ear for people, just sometimes that want to vent. And then, going back to what I was saying, at those moments when I was watching those videos and different things about different coping strategies and how to basically get it together, find your life purpose, it just clicked in my brain. I went, you know what? I've been doing that the whole time. With my friends, I'm the one that is in my circle of friends. I've always been the one that is the voice of reason, where a lot of my friends haven't quite worked it out yet, where with the whole emotions thing, I've got a few friends that are quick to anger, and they get frustrated and all muddled up in their thoughts, and I'm like, just relax, breathe. It doesn't have to be this hard. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yes.
And and when I realized that I'd been doing it the whole time, I went, you know what? I'm going to look into this further. So for the last 6 months, while I've been getting my business together, putting the website up, designing logos, all that good stuff, I finished my certificate in life coaching, and yeah, here we are. So I rarely these days have a day where I actually feel depressed. And I think
Wait, say that again. Say that again for me, Joel.
I very rarely have a day now where I feel depressed. Very rarely. I get, because it's been winter here, I do get a little bit of seasonal affective disorder.
Yes.
But other than that, I sort of being able to do this, talk to people about different coping strategies and whatnot, I've always maintained is, for me, actually a good way to talk about, almost like in a video diary way, where I can actually talk to people about ways to cope with their anxiety or ways to cope with their depression when I might be doing it myself. So when I'm doing one of those videos, it's like I'm almost reminding myself as well. So I'm helping myself while I'm helping other people.
That's absolutely true. Because when you
And
can learn,
that's why I love.
absolutely, and it's so true. Like when you can learn, when you can teach something, to teach something is to have learned it twice. So you have, by teaching it, it means that you really perfected that skill set to cope with whatever's going on. And just hearing your story, that's so relatable in my own way of this idea of the mind being judged constantly, feeling judged,
Yeah.
thinking that we're being judged, thinking that we're being labeled. Um, and sometimes yeah, that happens, and sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes people are just like, wow, I'm so proud of that person for going whatever
Yeah.
going through, that I just want to wish them all the best on their journey. One of the most important things that you kind of mentioned to me, which I thought was pretty stand up of you, was you had mentioned that you were drinking for a certain part of your life.
Yeah.
You started at 18 years old, and then on your 21st birthday, you had said to your mother, because she was
Yeah.
concerned with your well-being, you said, "Hey, look, at 30, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop doing that." Okay, and then when you
Yeah.
reached 30,
Yeah.
you kept that promise. What
Yeah.
exactly was it about making a promise and keeping your word, and keeping your intention, saying what you mean and meaning what you say and sticking to it? What was that? How did that come?
Well, like I said before, I've never been one to go back on my word. If I make a promise to someone, um, my promise, and I mean, a lot of people do sort of go, "Oh yeah, Joel, all right, whatever," because a lot of promises are just empty promises. Um, they say actions speak louder than words. But my word is something that I take great pride in. Um, I've never, ever in my whole life gone back on a promise. Um, and that is very high up on the list of things that I pride myself in. So, yeah, going back to that, I made that promise on my 21st birthday because, as you said, my mother was getting quite concerned because my drinking was just getting more and more and more. I was basically drowning myself in alcohol. And as most people do, they drink in their 20s. It's the fun partying age. You've got to go through that stage of drinking and partying and whatnot to experience it. But I said to her at that moment on my 21st birthday, knowing full well that my 20s were just, I set my 20s aside for just basically letting my hair down. That was the partying, you know, finding basically who I was. And I mean, there wasn't much of finding who I was, but I think in a way the drinking sort of helped, in a sort of strange way, because everything, whether it's good or bad, gets us to the stage of where we are in our lives. So obviously the drinking did play some part in helping me make future decisions. But at that moment on my 21st birthday, I said to Mum, I'm going to drink till I'm 30, and then I'm going to stop. Now, fast forward to my 30th birthday, and I went to my mum and I said to her, do you remember the promise that I made to you? And I did get emotional, actually, as I was saying it to her, because I was fully intent on keeping my word. And I think part of me knew that keeping my word meant that the next probably year was going to be an uphill slog, because detoxing is not easy. But I did at that moment get quite emotional when I said to her, do you remember the promise that I made to you on my 21st birthday? And she goes, yeah. And she said, well, are you going to stick to it? And I said, well, my word is my word. I've never gone back on anything that I've said ever. And in the beginning, Mum was skeptical. And to be honest, and I did mention that before, I did hit a few roadblocks, as everyone does. I did relapse a few times throughout those moments. But I think even that was a learning process. I had to learn how to be sober again, because, as I said with the music thing, I'd actually only at that time in my life, while I was drinking, listen to music when I was drunk. So I'd actually forgotten what it was like to listen to music while I was sober. And as I said before, when I turned that music on for the first time with a clear head, I actually enjoyed it more. And I heard in songs that I'd been listening to for years, I heard new things that I'd never heard before, new sounds, different things like that. And it actually, like, early on as well, I did study music, and I think that contributed to the drinking a lot, because it was a music course, and musicians drink a lot because they spend a lot of time in pubs and whatnot. So with that, I built up the appreciation for music early on. But I think at that time in my life, because I was drinking a lot, I didn't really, I wasn't really able to fully appreciate that experience. And I'm not saying that it's something that I'd go back and change, because I don't believe in going back and changing things, because everything's got us to where we are. But if I could do it again, not go back and change it the first time, but if I could go back and do that course again, which I don't think they have it here anymore, but I would like to go back and do that course again while I'm clear-headed, because I think I'd enjoy it
Absolutely.
much more.
Joel, you had mentioned something very interesting too. A couple things. Number one is, and then I'm curious about is, okay, so you made this promise to your mom. Why 30 years old? Just real quick, just why 30 years old?
Well, as I was saying, I believe that a lot of people spend their 20s, they're sort of party age where you sort of couldn't give a crap, really. That's the irresponsible ages,
Mhm.
where you're still finding yourself, but you need to be. I believe, and I still have moments like this where I believe you need to be somewhat irresponsible with certain things in your life in order to learn and grow from them, because a lot of the time we do learn from our mistakes. Um,
Absolutely.
you might go out one night, get drunk, offend someone, and then, get punched in the face. And you go, well, yeah, I won't do that again.
You
But
learn.
that's,
That's exactly right.
yeah,
It's a learning experience. And I think that that's also where a lot of people are. Now,
yeah,
get back to life purpose and everything that we're talking about today in this conversation is, you, so you've had this journey where you've had to make decisions, right? You've had to
yeah,
become independent. You decided, hey, I'm going to keep this promise to myself. I'm going to always, do what I feel is the right thing. And from your perspective, that's like, hey, this is the right thing.
yeah,
Maybe not other people agree with it, but it's like for you, it's the right thing. And for
yeah,
me, reason, it just comes up to me when I think about karma. I think about what's our purpose? Why are we here? I believe that we all make some type of a promise to ourselves that we're
yeah,
here for a specific reason.
yeah,
And it's up to us to fulfill that promise. It's up to us to decide. Independent
yeah,
promise, right? So
yeah,
here you are at 2 days old, and whether you were consciously aware of it or not, but you decided like,
mm,
hey, I'm gonna live. I'm gonna do whatever it is that I came here to do. I'm gonna serve my part in this whole collective experience. I'm gonna be like
yeah,
the flower of life, and
yeah,
I'm gonna keep my word. I'm gonna keep my promise to myself, to my reason for being here, to my purpose, to anything that I say. And I think that's extremely important because a lot of people forget along the
yeah,
journey. A lot of people a lot of people forget that they had a promise. A lot of
yeah,
people forget that they had the power to decide. And there's
yeah,
many people that work these jobs or that run businesses, and they're
mm,
not happy, they're not fulfilled, and they forgot that
yeah,
they had a choice. They forgot that they made a promise to themselves for why they decided to be born, why they decided to exist, especially at this time. Where
yeah,
we're in a time unlike any other in human history, and we have a lot of things that we need to maybe make amends with, heal, clear up. And just like you were saying,
yeah,
because you have a circle of friends, and you call yourself like the voice of reason, and I think
yeah,
that also for a reason, right? It's to keep people more level-headed in their own
yeah,
way, because a lot of people can be very quick to judge. A lot of people
yeah,
can be very quick to anger, right? And
yeah,
those are lower vibrational things. And just like you said,
yeah,
alcohol, it's ironic how that serves in its own way for us, because it shows us, okay, this is not who I really am. This is not my truth. This is not my true
yeah,
identity. This
yeah,
is my true identity. Whoever you are now, however you feel about yourself, that's your truth. Not coming
yeah,
from a state of feeling depressed or anxious, or even just considering what's the point of life. When you have a
yeah,
clear vision, you say, okay, this is it, and this is what
yeah,
I do. So I think that's really, really awesome that you mentioned those things about independence, keeping promises, and
yeah,
living your purpose. You
yeah,
had you mentioned that you do life coaching now, and that's kind of like your way of giving back. You would also mention something about um, going to hospitals and stuff like that too. Is that about right? Like in
yeah.
terms of like speaking to people, or is there anything that you do in that space?
I I don't. Nah. Most of the time when I'm in a hospital these days, I'm just there for an appointment or whatever, just checkups and whatnot. But um, yeah, perhaps even that's something that I can. I have often thought of going back to where it all began, and being a motivational type speaker for other kids, because I was in that situation once, and that would actually be another way for me to give back. And I have thought of that. There's no children's hospitals here, but there's only the main hospital. But yeah, where I grew up in Melbourne, there was, well, basically it was the Royal Children's Hospital that I grew up in. They hold an annual Royal Children's Hospital appeal on Good Friday, which I always make a thing to, throw in what I've got, just whether it's just a few dollars or whatever, because that's my way of giving back. But I've often thought of going back there and just maybe going into the ward that I spent a lot of time in when I was a kid, and saying to the nurses, saying to the staff in there, can I do anything for the kids? Like, whether it just be sit there and read them a book, or, just hang out with them. Because a lot of those kids are in a situation that I was once in. And even that makes me all emotional to think about. Because, I mean, the stuff that I've seen, the stuff that I've been through, I would not wish that upon anyone. Even my worst enemy, I would not wish that upon. I mean, even like things like my pain tolerance, I question whether it even exists sometimes, because I'll cut my finger. Like, I think a few weeks ago, I cut my finger with a knife, and I sliced it pretty bad. And I'm like, yeah, it's just a cut. And my fiance's like, nah, it's bleeding out. You need to you need to get it. I'm like, nah, it's just a cut. Don't worry about it. So my pain threshold has been quite, quite heightened, I guess, or lowered, whichever it is. And sometimes I question whether I do even feel pain, because I've seen that much pain and been through that much pain, that even then, I think from a young age, I was like, I think I vaguely remember nurses going, he should be screaming, like in agony. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in pain. I've got a headache, but everything's cool. I'm just taking it easy. But that's, I think, comes down to the person, because while I was more laid back and sort of out of it most of the time, because they did have me on a lot of sedatives, morphine and whatnot when I was recovering, the kids in the beds next to me would be screaming. And in that way, being a kid, I didn't quite understand what kind of pain they were going through, because I was sort of ignorant to their pain a lot of the time, where I'd go, I'm in just as much pain as you are. Why don't you shut up? So I was, a little bit childish in that way. But at the same time, I did have compassion. I developed compassion and empathy. Even empathy is probably stronger. The empathy in me, because I am in fact an empath, I get to the stage where when someone's crying, and I think most people or some people are the same, I can't be around people that cry. It's not because I don't want to comfort them or be around them and stuff. It's that it hurts me. It hurts me inside, because I don't like to see people in pain. I've seen it in my past. I didn't much care for it. But in my life, I've seen cuts, bruises, vomit, and all sorts of other stuff. It's actually got to the stage where even watching a horror movie, I'll be sitting there watching a horror movie with my friends, and they'll go, "Oh, that's gross," and they'll turn their head, and I'll be just sitting there like it's nothing because I've seen cuts and
you become basically desensitized to it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So then, with that said, I mean, we're seeing people all over the world suffering in their own ways, whether it be a mental disorder, whether it be a disability, whether it be children not having enough food to eat,
yeah,
and I think for us, we have the power to do something all together. If we really truly came together as one, we can do so much together in this world. Um, and I think that comes from unleashing your purpose. I think it comes
yeah,
from stepping up and doing whatever it is that whatever you said that you were going to promise yourself to do in this.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
have you've had this journey, you've had these experiences, not by accident, by
yeah,
sheer, this is the part of your path, this is part of your journey, and it's leading you
yeah,
up to this point. What that point is, I mean, the rest of the story still has to be written, right? The
yeah,
biography still has to be written. But
yeah,
what would you say to someone then that's watching this, that is in the same way, like you, like us, where we don't want to see the world suffer, we don't want to see people suffer, and the way that they get ended is through really living their purpose and serving humanity? What would you say to someone,
yeah.
to really get them to excited about unleashing their purpose and living a life that they absolutely love, doing things that they absolutely love, and helping people with the process?
Well, firstly, it's step one is to find what you are absolutely 100% passionate about. Whether, like you say, it might be a charity or some sort of organisation, or you might be passionate about art or music, as I mentioned. But that is the key, the first key to unleashing your life purpose, is to actually experiment a little bit, go out, be open-minded to many different things, because I think, and I've watched people do it a lot of the time. I myself, I've always been open to learning new things. I mean, that was another promise that I made to myself years ago. And that was actually one of my conscious decisions. That was even, I think, before I stopped drinking. I made a decision that I would learn one new thing every day. So that is something that I do for my own
Bro,
mental growth.
perfect.
Um, so even if it's just that, learning one new thing every day, whether it's a craft or how to do something, it might be a YouTube video. You might not know how to make a cake, and you want to make a cake. You know, YouTube especially, it's a whole world of how to do things. There's a lot of those videos I've noticed, because I have been watching a lot of them lately. Just as I say again, for my own
Growth.
growth.
That's perfect.
Um, so, I mean, I think it is important to just, number one would be to be open-minded to everything, basically. And even like gratitude. Gratitude is number one. And I have always maintained that we should not only be grateful for the good stuff that comes our way, for the good things that we have in our lives, we should also be grateful for the shortcomings, because in those moments, we might think, why is this shit happening to us? But I guarantee you, after the smoke clears, after it's all said and done, after the moments of shit have happened and things have calmed down a little bit, you will have learnt something.
Absolutely.
If not about something you're going through, it might be just about yourself.
Absolutely. That's called learning through either Kensho or Satori. So some of us we learn through the pain, right? Through the Kensho
Yeah,
moment. And we can also learn through the Satori moments. So it's the
yeah,
good things and the Satori meaning like the good stuff is just like easy for us, right? So we
yeah,
can learn through those Kensho and Satori moments. We can learn through the good and through the not so good. But it's all about our consciousness and how aligned we are to that stuff. So that's absolutely perfect. I would also say too, in terms of learning, we're always constantly learning. You know, I'm always learning every single day from even just this conversation. I'm learning about you.
yeah,
I'd also say too, sharing one thing a day, sharing
yeah,
something, contributing just something, you know,
yeah.
something to the overall picture of this ecosystem that we're in. That can make a huge.
Well, I actually say that's my favourite thing about Facebook. It's got a share button.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
it's probably the most positive thing on Facebook.
That's and we have that ability to share ideas, to share messages. You know, it's
Yeah,
so easy these days to go on social media and find what you're looking for. You know, you're gonna
yeah,
get what you're looking for. We can find a fight on social media. We can find
yeah,
good things as well. You know,
yeah,
we've got we've got like the finest people in this group, I believe, and they're all searching for that thing, or
yeah,
they have some idea of that, and now they just want to expand on that, and they want to give something truly from their heart and contribute something greater to the world. And I think that's so fantastic that you made that choice to be a life
yeah,
coach, to help other people in your way, because we all do it in our own way.
yeah, yeah. We just basically we need that spark that ignites the fire that makes us think, you know what, I'm running towards the finish line. Um, and I think it was 50 Cent. 50 Cent, the movie came out, Get Rich or Die Trying. I mean, that's perfect. Um, if everyone had that attitude where they're like, you know what, worst case scenario, I'm going to horribly stuff something up and it's not going to work out too good for me. But at the end of the day, I had to go at it. And I think where a lot of people get stuck is they would rather not do something than do something and horribly mess it up and possibly look like an idiot. Um, now, anyone that knows anything about my personality knows that I've got no problem looking like an idiot. um, I'm kind of quirky. I do have a few eccentricities, and I really, if I can make someone laugh by being an idiot, whether it's because I've, you know, messed something up or whatever, then all right, I've made someone laugh. At least I've made someone smile for the day. That's success right there.
Wow.
Um, if you can get through to in any way, shape or form, if you can get through to just one person a day, um, with something as simple as a smile, um, even if they are laughing at your shortcomings because you've done something stupid and you look kind of like an idiot, then at least you've made one person smile for the day.
But I also would say too that I mean, at the end of the day, you're still having fun. You're still just being who you are, and I think that's unconditional in itself. Is that you're just being your authentic self. You know, we all have our own
Yeah,
eccentricities. We all have our own quirks. You know,
yeah,
I've been called strange, weird, many times before in my past. So it's all part of it. It's all part of growth. It's all part of love. It's all part of just expanding. You know.
yeah,
So
yeah,
Joe,
definitely.
what would be just before we wrap up because we're running out of time here? What would be one last thing that you would want to share uh, to people watching this, just as a close?
Um, well, the main thing that I have actually struggled with in the beginning was not getting to the stage where I don't care about the opinions of others. In that way, I think that, in a sense, is probably the biggest lesson that I've learned. And now, as I said before, while I do welcome constructive criticism, if it's constructive, if it's going to help me in some way, I'm open to it. That's good. If someone's just going to, like I said, if someone's just going to say, I don't like your jacket, why are you wearing it? I'm going to ignore that person's opinion because I think it looks cool.
You do what feels good to you, and that's
Yeah.
That's perfect. So, like for anyone that's truly about to live their life purpose and unleash it, just do what feels right to you. You know, as long as it's in
Yeah.
alignment with harmony and the universe or the laws of the earth. I don't know what
Yeah.
you call that, but
Well,
it feels good.
as long as, you know, anything that anyone does is achievable, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, while they're living their purpose, because there are a lot of those people in the world leaders and whatnot, that like to step on people's toes while they're trying to get themselves to the next level. I don't believe in that. I believe we should help one another get to where we need to be in life, in order to get there. And as you say, collectively, as a group and as the world united, we can achieve great things, but that will only happen with unity.
Wow.
You know, we need to be open, and another thing, drop the ego, because ego means, you know, you're right, I'm wrong, like type thing. All that gets in the way, and then we don't respect other people's opinions. We need to be open. As I said, we need to be open to everything. We just need to be open, because without being open, we're keeping hold of our ego, and that then keeps the notion within us that we always need to be right, and you know, that's you're right and I'm wrong, and you know, it gets into all that. So by respecting people's opinions, as I say, only the positive ones, we can better help each other to get ourselves to the next level. But we need first to drop the ego, to actually be open to hearing other people's opinions, to be able to welcome them into our heart for them to help us, because that is basically what the beginning of being open to being helped is about. We need to be open to hearing other people's ideas, not just say, well, I was really set on, you know, it working out that way and that way and that way. And I go, and like, quite often, a lot of the time, one of your friends will come past and you go, have you tried it this way? Like, and you go, no, I haven't. That might work. So, you know, we need to be open.
Wow.
We need to be open to everything. And when I got sober, especially, that was the first epiphany I had. Things began to be clear to me, and even when I went outside, I started smelling air differently. I, you know, smelt new things. I seen new things. I noticed new things, and now I like to, most of the time, just observe. I like to observe my surroundings, and that's big, on the list of finding your purpose as well, because quite often it'll just be something subconsciously that you've looked up maybe on the wall and seen a spider. Like, I know this is probably a weird example, but a lot of people don't like spiders, but some people do. So you might see a spider up on the wall and go, I love spiders. I want to be an arachnid, someone that works with spiders.
Hmm.
It the life purpose, I think, a lot of the time comes from just a pure epiphany. One day you just have a sudden realization, something clicks in your mind.
Like
and
an aha moment.
yeah, an aha moment. Once you have that aha moment, get on it straight away. Like research, journal. Like I've got up there, I don't know if you can see the shelf there.
Yes.
They're all my journals. I have got a gratitude journal. I've got just an everyday thoughts journal, and feelings journals, emotions journals, and work
Awesome.
journals, ideas journals. Like I've got journals for everything. And I think that is a very good way as well to keep track of your progress, because that is a big part of getting yourself to the next level as well, to actually be able to chart your progress. And when you do have those moments where you go, I don't know whether this is working out, you can actually go back months prior to where you've actually written it down, and you go, another aha moment, you go, shit, I have come quite far. I think I'll keep going.
We don't even realize how much progress we make unless we actually look back. And when we actually are looking forward, we think, oh man, we have so much more to go. But it's that one step at a time. It's that one thing at a time. And that's just so awesome that you do that, Joel. I'm gonna have to take that for
Yeah,
myself. I'm gonna have to start.
yeah,
Joel,
yeah. So basically take time to reflect.
yes. Always reflect,
Yeah.
always go within, always ask yourself the questions. Joel, thank you so much for doing this interview with us today. It was an absolute pleasure to hear you, to know your story, and to
Yeah.
connect with you on a much deeper level. So thank you so much for this one. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.